dear friends, and happy Monday. I'm so excited to be with you for this second week of astrology energy, looking at the broad strokes of what we're facing in these next 7 days. It's a jam-packed one, spoiler alert. There are a lot of different transits going on. I'm going to post them here on the screen versus reading all of the dates to you. The date of the transit is listed along with the day that I covered that transit in the Astrology and Coffee live stream. And honestly, I think the main overarching theme of this week is the Pisces palooza that we are having happen, especially with the moon moving through Pisces at the beginning of this week. The moon makes a complete lap through the entire zodiac every 29.5 days, so it only spends 2.5 days per sign. But the very first part of this week until Wednesday, we have the moon in Pisces lighting up the fact that Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Neptune are all already in Pisces. So lots of Pisces energy, and that is going to be kind of the center of the wheel that we're going to orbit around a little bit as we talk about what it means to have Pisces sextiling Capricorn. So Pluto is at the very end of Capricorn. We have several planets at the end of Pisces. They're creating several sextiles between those two. So we'll talk about that conversation. We have more of the Taurus Pisces sextiles happening this week as well, with the sun moving through the beginning parts of Taurus and making a sextile back to Mars. So we'll touch on that. And then also at the end of this week, we have Mercury moving from Taurus to Gemini, where it's basically already in a sextile with the Mercury at the end of Taurus back to the end of Pisces and all of those planets there. But that sextile is going to hold as it crosses over and enters Gemini, which is rare considering these two signs typically make a square when they have a conversation. They have more of a tense, pulling in two opposite directions kind of energy, versus at the end of this week, we will have them in a supportive sextile where they are bringing additional harmony to each other, and we will talk all about that as well. So as we did last week, this is intended to be quick, to the point, broad strokes. If you're looking for more, please check out the Astrology and Coffee live streams. For those of you that are members of the Patreon community, also wanted to give you a reminder that we have our Sacred Circle coming up tomorrow, Tuesday, April 26th at 10 a.m. Central Time. We will convene over Zoom for what has quickly become my most favorite thing that I get to do, to find ourselves in community with like-minded individuals. It's a really good time. If you're not a member of the Patreon, it is super simple to join. The link is in the description. It's a suggested monthly donation of $5, but you can pay whatever feels good to you. So without further ado, I do want to add on to what we talked about last week with Taurus sextiling Pisces, because I thought of another element that I think when you add these two signs together, you wind up with great healing abilities. And I mean this as far as like if you have these sextiles in your natal chart, so like you have planets in Pisces and Taurus that are making a sextile, so you're carrying that energy all the time, that there are healing potentials for you as an individual to heal yourself, and that by embodying the healing that you are able to accomplish, that you are also then basically implicitly passing that along to every single person that you ever share physical space with. As we feel our auras communicating with each other, we can feel the energy of each other with no words ever being spoken. So as you embody your own healing through that Pisces Taurus energy, it's automatically given as a wonderful gift to everyone that you ever come into contact with. Next, we'll talk a little bit about Pisces sextiling Capricorn. So we have Pluto in Capricorn that is set to go retrograde at the end of this week, and that'll be retrograde for 6 months. So Pluto pretty much spends 6 months direct, 6 months retrograde. So it takes a long time for Pluto to cover ground. And with that in mind, I do go in depth into Pluto retrograde and kind of what we can expect from that time. But the bottom line is that it is very, very transformative for Pluto to go retrograde, especially in an earth sign. So Pluto retrograde in an earth sign is bringing to light the flaws in our physical systems and structures. So the physical systems and structures, like how do you spend your energy on a daily basis? What are you investing that daily energy into? And from there, it's a matter of kind of sussing out for yourself, these structures that I'm spending my energy on every day, do they align with the divinity inside of me, that sextile back to Pisces? So Capricorn all by itself has very earthly ambitions as far as like climbing the physical mountains, meet the goals, achieve the things. The earthly version of success fits into that Capricornian picture. So when it gets off in its shadow elements, you have materialism, you have greed, you have sacrificing your personal values for material gain. And so when Capricorn is left to its own devices, that shadow has a much easier time running rampant. However, when you have this supportive, harmonious sextile back to Pisces, we end up with this combination of Pisces being as personal of a connection with the divine as we can ever personally embody. And as we bring that personal connection on board inside our physical vessel, it's like the motivations of our heart and soul are that much louder and easier to recognize. So when they bump up against that Capricornian shadow, where maybe you're paying a little bit too much for your money, as they say, you're going against your values to make sure that you have this earthly version of success. Basically, it pulls all of that back towards the center of anything that you're spending your earthly energy on, anything that you're focusing on in the physical realm. During this time, as we have this connection between Pisces and Capricorn, the earthly energy expenditure will have to balance out and reconcile with what your heart and soul is saying to you. So it gets a lot more difficult to ignore the wishes of your soul, and it also, like when you think about, so that's kind of how Pisces tempers Capricorn, like how it kind of pulls Capricorn back from its shadow edge. The shadow side of Pisces, just to kind of tune into that for a second, Pisces is mutable water, so infinite water. When we think Pisces, I think of like water that just like spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads in all directions because there's no bounds. There's no reason that the water should stop spreading. So like at that point, it's very uncontained. It's very difficult to like pull it all back together and hand it off to somebody else and like impart value to someone else. I'm not at all saying that Pisces does not impart value to other people. I'm talking about Pisces shadow frequency, and in its shadow form, it is unbound. And at that point, it gets really difficult to take all of that and try to put it into something that you can impart to someone else. And so when we have this sextile with Capricorn, that earth energy is supporting that Pisces energy. Basically, like here we have my cup of coffee, like Capricorn becomes the mug and Pisces is on the inside. So what am I doing? I'm drinking the coffee. I'm enjoying the warmth and the satisfaction and the enjoyment of the coffee itself. And I'm able to do that because I have this handy mug that holds it in place for me and allows me to so easily access it. If my coffee was spread out on the floor and I had to lick it off the floor to enjoy it, that's obviously, you're just not gonna cover as much ground. I'm not gonna get as much coffee into my system as quickly as if I have the mug. The mug is really helpful. So this is essentially what happens when we have Pisces sextiling Capricorn. It's like the best of both worlds. It's like the earthly ability to have a vision and have a dream, set a goal, meet the goal. Like that process for Capricorn, easy peasy, set a goal, meet the goal. Like that's all you got to do. Pisces, you just open your heart and let source's natural love come into you. That's natural. That's easy peasy. And when you put the two together, you literally have this grounded, unconditional love. You have the ability to flow the divinity of your own soul and create a structure to hold it and send it out into the world where you can impart it to other people. I carry this sextile in my chart all the time. I have Mars and North Node in Pisces at 17 degrees, and my midheaven is in Capricorn at 17 degrees. So they are exactly sextile to the degree. And this is exactly how I feel about my YouTube channel. These videos are the mug, the software that I use to record it, the YouTube platform in general that exists in the physical, where all I got to do is click upload and there's all these people already gathered on this platform. There's all of these different Capricornian elements, but ultimately at the end of the day, what am I actually sharing? I'm sharing the love of source energy that I can feel viscerally inside of my being. So I feel like I kind of sometimes I try to embody this Pisces Capricorn sextile, and we all have access to it right now. It's lit up in the sky with multiple powerful planets talking to each other between these two signs. So something to think about as far as both turning up the volume knob on your heart and soul and what's it saying to you, and to find how to weave that energy into the structures that exist in the physical, how to use the tools of the physical to better convey the love that Pisces knows in their bones. So it's a really beautiful combination, obviously. And last but not least, we have Pisces sextiling Gemini, which, like I said, that's pretty rare. That means like we have a planet at the very beginning of Gemini and a planet at the very end of Pisces. So if they were together by degree, like if the planet was at the end of Gemini and the planet at the end of Pisces, those create a square. But because we have it off, where end of Pisces, beginning of Gemini, we get a sextile. So this is pretty rare to see. But when I think about what these two energies have in common, like how would they harmoniously support each other? Like I know from thinking about the square, which I also carry in my natal chart, I have, Mars and North Node at 17 Pisces. And then in Gemini, I have 18 degrees Venus and 19 degrees Mercury. So my divine feminine is like squaring my divine masculine between Gemini and Pisces. So I spent a lot of time thinking about how those two energies square each other, a lot less time thinking about how they would support each other. But basically, as I look at the mutable energy landscape, meaning like Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, I see Gemini and Pisces as the two most receptive mutable signs. So I think that's the main point that they have in common, is how receptive they are. And when we talk about receptivity, Gemini is open and receptive in our thoughts. So think about the thought energy of other people. And I relay this as like, there's a lot of times where as I'm listening to somebody talk and like they're having a hard time finding their words, one of my superpowers, I don't know if this is part of that Gemini Pisces square in my own chart, but like one of my superpowers is I can just feel what they're trying to say. So I just give them the words. I just finish their sentence for them. They're like, yes, thank you. Okay. And then they're able to carry on with their story. So there's like an open to the thought energy of others that Gemini possesses. Pisces receptivity, on the other hand, is like the energy body is what's open. So it's not limited just to thought energy, it's your entire system. So what I see as far as like a sextile or a harmonious relationship between these two signs looks like potentially 100% open. And when you're open, you are now eligible to be receptive for any kind of divine inspiration that is floating in the air, that is in the aura of another human being or an animal or a tree or anything. You're receptive, you're ready to receive. And at that point, that, like, again, when I think about Pisces and Gemini and kind of what they have in common, I go back to both of them in that receptivity. There is an unhinging and a temporary detachment from the ego that is what creates that openness. where like Gemini and Pisces both, and I say they're the most receptive of the mutable signs. I think they have the lowest need for controlling what's in front of them. So they have the highest tolerance for the natural flow and ebb and flow of life, however it unfolds. Like one of Gemini's highest frequency gifts is that like they just really genuinely like to be surprised. So it's like the opposite of a control freak. Like I don't want to know any of the details because I want to be surprised and in awe and delighted around every corner I turn. Don't tell me anything ahead. I want to be surprised. So that's, really, again, receptive. You're letting it come through whatever avenue it will come through. That's the gift of being that open. I've said many times on my channel that a lot of times people, it's not that they're not manifesting what they want, it's that they're manifesting what they want, but they don't recognize it because they're saying it has to look like this. And when it comes and it looks like this, they basically think they haven't manifested it because it wasn't this one. So Gemini Pisces, that openness and like dropping of the ego, dropping of the pretense of like, let me dictate what needs to happen from here to here. They just have the openness of a child that just looks around and is like happy and in awe and inspired by everything that they come into contact with. So that's really beautiful. That's a really beautiful energy that this will be basically like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like super accessible on into maybe Monday of next week, where we have this like really harmonious connection between all of the different ways our being can be open. And because we live in the planet Earth, there is not only light, there is also darkness. So of course, I'll tell you just a little bit about what I see as far as the shadow side of this sextile, because that's one of the main misconceptions that I love to talk about in astrology, is that there is no such thing as a good aspect or a bad aspect. Even the quote unquote good aspects, the harmonious aspects, sextiles, trines, etc., they can turn ugly, they can turn unproductive and begin holding you back, because in a harmonious relationship, there is basically like, if you can get them harmonizing and going in the same direction, there's nothing to pull them off that course. And if that course is moving in the wrong direction, they're just moving in the wrong direction. Everybody's on board, headed on the same track. So it's when you have the quote unquote hard aspects or squares, oppositions, sometimes even conjunctions. It's when you have those that if one side gets headed down a shadow track, that the other one is going to bring it back. The other one is going to balance it out, because the other one is constantly pulling, saying, no, let's go this way. So that tension, even though it can set up some, you feel a little bit crazy on the inside at times, especially early on in your energy, it's like that tension actually can be really productive to make sure that you don't ever get stuck in the shadow of one or the other. So when we have harmonious aspects like a sextile or a trine, it can end up being too much of a good thing. Like, have you ever gone on a roller coaster? This is an example I heard the other day. Like, the first time you go on the roller coaster, it's exhilarating. It's really fun. And you immediately go back, and this is me. I overdose on good things all the time. I'm an expert. So yeah, like you get off the roller coaster and you instantly go back around to ride it again. And the second time, it's still pretty fun, but now you're feeling like just a little bit shaken. And so now, like, I'm 12 years old, I get off and I'm riding it again. And I basically will do that until my physical body like basically feels sick. And that's what I've done to myself. I've taken this good thing, this good, fun, stimulating thing, and turned it into something that's hurting me. And so that's definitely possible. This level of openness that we're talking about, this level of receptivity, one thing that I'll say is like, you may or may not be able to be around people as much as you normally are. AKA, you may need more solitude than normal at this time to keep yourself functioning. Because essentially what we have here is like, they're both super receptive, taking on energy from basically any being that you encounter. And it's like the sponge, and eventually the sponge is full and the sponge is leaking water, dripping water everywhere. And basically at that point, you're like the unbound Pisces, where you're just a limitless lake and there's no pulling it back together to like be coherent in the moment anymore until you go and wring out the sponge. And that is to say, get out of other people's energy. Go get back to your own energy and systematically get everybody else's energy out of there so that you're back to neutral. And then go back out and be in the presence of other people's energy and watch the magic that you receive. Pisces and Gemini tend to be social signs. They tend to enjoy friend time. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was wanting to be around people and the potential for immense overload and overwhelm. If you've ever had a panic attack or anything like that, you know what I'm talking about, where it's just too much. It's just too much in your system and you have to retreat. You have to go away and wring out your sponge. So that is a look at the week ahead. I hope you have enjoyed it. I wanted to mention one more time the Patreon Fourth Tuesday Sacred Circle happening tomorrow on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Time. If you're already in Patreon, I look forward to seeing you there. If you're not, check it out. If you're feeling so inspired, leave me a comment and let me know, what are you most looking forward to this week? There's so many different transits. There's so much going on in the cosmic conversation between all of the planets. So much fun things. So many fun things to contemplate. I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, take such good care of yourselves, and so will I.